Welcome in, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. This is Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses.
And this is episode The Purpose. Why are we here?
I am Danny Jones, and this is
Samantha Jones.
Cool. Welcome to anybody. Welcome back to anybody that's listened to the past ones, the last two, and welcome to new time listeners. We
everybody,
appreciate it.
Hello.
So, as Samantha said, episode 3.
Yes.
Before we get into that, though, let's recap last week. It was pretty cool.
Last week was good. I liked it.
You had some good feedback.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to read one of them for you here. This was my favorite. This is from Nicole. She said, "Wow, I'm halfway through the show and I'm really loving it. I had to pause to write to you how excited to hear real-life stories of mediumship and spouse of a medium. Thank your mom for me for making you guys do this."
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool.
Like, that makes me tear up because that's exactly the kind of emotion that we want to invoke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wonderful feedback.
Yes.
And that's the whole thing. It's just invoking the emotion and connecting with somebody.
Exactly.
Even if it's one person.
Spreading the love.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So, what else this week before we jump into this episode? You had another circle?
I did. I had my medium circle on Sunday.
Cool. How was that?
It was good. It was scary.
I was there.
I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. Talk about it.
We'll just talk about it for a minute. It was, that one was, made me nervous because that was like the key players in my life. It was Danny's parents and aunt and her friend and a bunch of our close friends and just a couple of people that I didn't know. And it was an experience. It really was. But yeah.
It was amazing. It's neat to see people come back.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's neat to see new faces.
I haven't done many in-person readings. Everything pretty much been on the internet. So it is hard for me to see people's facial expressions. Sometimes it does throw me off. I was thinking like my next circle, I should blindfold myself so that I can't see how they react, because it's like when they react and I feel it's negative, then I'm like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. And I start doubting myself,
exactly.
You know?
I mean, the closest thing I could kind of analogy would be like a poker face. Like you're not sure if you're reading it right or you're reading it wrong. And so, and some of it, I think just people's understanding of how this process works makes it a little bit confusing.
It does. Actually, that's one of our questions for this week for the listener. So maybe we should just go into that unless you had more to talk about the circle.
No.
Okay, great. Let's see. The first one was, how do you handle skeptics and do they hurt your abilities? So this actually was one of my first instances with, I don't know if it was a skeptic situation or what, but this person just wasn't open to accepting what I had to say. But it was also about how the messages come to me and get translated, because they don't come in the way I think a lot of people think they do. It's not like I just sit there and get this entire bank of your memories from your life that I can pick from. I get what they give me, and sometimes they come in like a form of a picture, which in this particular instance, I got a picture of Italy, and it was just like the boot that you see on a map.
Yeah.
That's all I got was just Italy. And that's what I said. I'm feeling some connection to Italy. Was he born in Italy? Nope. And I was like, oh, okay. And then that happened a couple more times. Nope. Okay, then I'm going to move on. And we figured out what was happening was just that she was taking it so literally that it's like, just because...
No, because she came back and said, no, he wasn't born there. He wasn't from there.
Right.
But Italy was important.
Exactly.
And
Italy was important. Yeah.
Okay,
well, hello.
That's what I think he was trying to say is,
yeah,
this is how you may recognize me.
Right.
That you're actually talking to me because I'm giving you something valid or important about my life.
Exactly. But we didn't really know what was happening at first. Right. I was trying to analyze it. And what was interesting was that I had just read an article about reasons why you might not be able to connect with the spirit. And one of them is that the person isn't open to it, isn't open to what you're hearing. So that's what I kind of took for what was going on. And so I sat with her and I said, look, I just don't think that you're open to receiving the messages that I have for you right now, because if you look around the room, everybody else is accurate except for yours. And what does that tell us, you know? So then later on, we figured out that it was just that she was taking it to exact. Right. And so...
But I just want to interject on that, that moment. When you did... you know, there's a room full of 15 or 20 other people, and obviously having to address something like that with somebody in particular may be tough, and you're not sure, like, oh my gosh, okay, how do I help them understand what's actually going on?
Right.
You were really sweet about it. You were really gentle with her, and I think everybody got to see that, you know, your interaction with these people, just gentle and sweet. You could feel the compassion and the emotion that came out, in particular in this circle was exceptional. It made me feel like, wow, I'm kind of honored to be here and share, even though I don't know these people, share in the emotion of their memories, of their loved ones.
There was one person there in particular that we had never met before, and it like makes me want to cry just thinking about it. Like, stop. Yeah. That just really touched us, and not just us, but other people in the circle too.
That was a sweet guy.
Yeah, he was very sweet. I'm actually going to do a private reading for him on Sunday, so I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome.
So it really, I
felt drawn to him immediately.
I did too, absolutely. Yeah. So that was probably one of my first instances with dealing with, I don't know if you would call it skeptical or just uninformed, but it does make me understand more of what we need to talk about in future episodes about how this gift actually works. Because I don't just walk around all day going, that light's going to be red and that car's going to turn there. No. It doesn't work like that. I don't know everything that's coming, and I'm very, very thankful for that. I only know the things that are important, or like there's a particular reason for them. Right. So, and what the spirits give me is what they give me. Right. Same with the animals.
Well, something about the circle I wanted to add really fast is that it was nice at the end that people just didn't like bolt and the room was empty. People hung around and talked and connected. I mean, I had somebody I hadn't seen, a coworker I hadn't seen in a couple years that showed up. So it's neat to see the people that it sparks their interest and their desire and hope that they can connect. So you know what? It was really cool. This one, you know, each one is different. I think they have their own specialness, but I'd say the response even there, that moment afterwards was really nice, as well as last week's podcast. So enough of the BSing about that. What's that? You have something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I felt from this circle, it made me really realize that what you get out what you want. If you don't put in that I'm going to go into this and not be skeptical, then you're lining yourself up. Because the lady that you were talking about, she was really very open, and everything that I said, it wasn't just like the Italy thing. It was like I knew that the one her dad had died from lung cancer. He was a smoker his whole life. Her brother actually, my whole emotions changed. That wasn't that one.
Oh, that was right.
My whole like body changed. I was really jittery. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It like became really, really jittery, and she was like, "That was my brother's personality."
Yeah, you took on that.
So she was really very open to it. So if you come in with that kind of idea of anything's possible, that's probably the experience that you're going to leave with. But if you come in with a negative attitude, that's probably the experience you're going to leave with.
Yeah. I mean, a majority of it that I saw was positive. It was like people
very
really
much so. Very much
you
so.
could see them really feeling them, you know, and feeling comforted. And, obviously there might be one in the crowd that is a skeptic or may not quite understand. But you just hope for them and pray for them that in time they will see.
Right.
But like I said last week, you have to be open to it.
Yeah, you do.
If you're going to close your mind off and just take everything for face value, then you probably won't see.
Right.
But anyways, so enough of that. Let's get
Okay.
on with episode 3.
Let's do it.
We are talking the purpose and why we are here.
Yes.
All right, you want to start us off with that?
Okay, so I like to do research on things so that I know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? So I did a little bit of research on what different religions believe is the purpose of life.
I don't research. I just give my opinion.
You have no idea how true that is. Okay, so first of all, let me tell you, because I did say last week that I knew that there were hundreds, if not thousands of religions. There are 4,200 religions. That blows my mind.
Wow.
Number 1 is Christianity.
Yep.
Number 2 is Islamic. I found this very, very, very interesting. So I guess if you had to classify what we are as a religion, which I really don't like to do, but if you had to, it's spiritualism. And spiritualism is number 11, which is one of my favorite numbers. So of course, that always makes me happy.
Yeah, I'm a fan of 11.
Yes.
Marina was born on 3/11.
Yes, she was. But also, Judaism was number 12. And I feel like in my life, I have met way more Jewish people than I have spiritualists.
Right.
So that makes me think that there's a lot of you spiritualists that are in the closet and need to come out, because this is a beautiful world and it really needs to be shared with people.
Right.
So that, for me, opened up, well, what do the religions actually think about the purpose of life? What is our purpose? And a couple of the ones that I wrote down here, the one was a Christian. This is a Bible verse. It's, fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether good or bad. The Christian religion, the what I take from it, is that they're ruled by fear. That it's about, you have to live this lifestyle. You can't do bad things. If you do, you have to be forgiven for them. Do you know what I mean? It's ruled by fear.
Right. Well,
And
you have to ask for
me
forgiveness.
sad.
You have to repent.
Right. That
So
makes me sad.
it is I can't help but feel like there is, but not only Christianity, but that is one of them. Somehow I feel like there's some sort of condemnation and fear base going on there, you know, whether the end result is
Right.
you go to hell, you know. So
Right.
what if you were in the midst of, you know, raising hell
Mhm.
and you got hit by a car before
Right.
you had a chance to ask or repent,
Right.
you know, and ask for forgiveness? Are you just going to hell? I mean, that just doesn't seem fair.
No.
For everything that whatever's beyond this, and if there is something in charge, an energy or a god or multiple gods or whatever it is that took the time to create us
Right.
and think us up just to
Yeah.
throw you away like you're trash,
It makes no
doesn't make any sense.
This was another thing that I read. I wrote down was, for Christianity, reverence God and obey the commandments. That's tough. Again, it's like you have to obey and you have to fear. It's ruled with fear.
Right.
Don't rule with fear.
Yeah, I mean, the first part of that message is wonderful, and it's kind of what you would get, you know, in Buddha-type
Right.
teachings and even spiritual-type teachings, is just like live and let live. We don't really need to step on each other's
No.
toes nearly as much as we do.
No. Here's what it said about Judaism. Our lives were created for a purpose, which is to fulfill the mission of God and that God has given us through his Torah, and that our lives are therefore meaningful. Everything we do is a part of that mission, and it's that sense of mission that gives us strength. That to me is beautiful. Like, honestly, if I wasn't a spiritualist, I would probably be Jewish. Well, I am Jewish, actually. I'm
Yeah, you are.
25% Ashkenazi Jewish.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that tells
That's
you
why
something.
it resonates, maybe.
Yeah, it does. So I really love that. I think that's beautiful. And I think in a way it does definitely talk about the positive. You know what I mean?
Right.
So then I looked up spiritualism. And it basically says to establish a belief in the existence of the soul after the death of the earthly body. Spiritualists generally do not fear death, but look at it as an earthly end. Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Me too. Yeah.
That's how I've come to see it.
Right.
I didn't always.
Me too.
I think I lived in more of a Christianity state of mind and fear of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in the end. And even if I felt like I've repented or asked for forgiveness, was it legitimate?
Right. Exactly.
In the eyes of God
Right.
or Jesus?
Right.
And that's it's this control, just like I feel like in Catholicism that, not only is it known that actually chapters of the Bible were withheld and not even added. So we don't, there's chapters that aren't even there that were part of this book, but that you have to go to a priest
Right.
and confess your sins. And then that priest goes and prays for you. That's just, again, that's another concept that's hard for me to wrap my head around. I'm not knocking it. I just feel like more in the sense of Christianity that you can go to the source yourself. Right. And I think that what I feel about maybe Christianity that it was hard for me to wrap my head around is going to the source. I'm going to Christ or God myself, which is cool, better than going to someone else than a third party. Right. But what about all those angels and stuff that you read about that are in the Bible? And I'm not talking about Gabriel and all these huge ones, or even Lucifer, being the archangel. And I'm talking about just other angels. Right. That, I mean, being your lineage, your soul family. Right. That are there guiding you and helping you. Right. Just like they were then, they are now. Right. So I tend to believe more in a spiritualism type of mindset, and I haven't even studied that enough to know, am I really that or am I not? I just have an opinion about what I think and what I feel.
Well, can I share with you my thoughts on what our purpose is?
Let's do that.
Because I really sat down and honestly, when these things come to me, I don't even think so much. They just come. I feel like they're writing through me.
That's a big question. I mean, your purpose, the purpose, what is the purpose? Right. It's almost like what came first, the chicken or the egg.
Right. So for me, I believe that the purpose of life is actually to find our purpose, which I feel is different for everybody. You pick your purpose, not everybody has the same purpose to get to the same place. Does that make sense? Right. Right. So I feel like for me personally, I'm here to help people to get through their grief and to help animals to be, to help them live happier, longer lives. Those are my goals, and I feel like that's my purpose here. I really feel like that's my main purpose. But I don't think it ends there. Like, I think that we have other little purposes, you know what I mean? Like things, because that really is more for others. Like our main purpose is almost like it's meant for the things that we do for other people, not the selfish things. Our main purpose here is not to make as much money as we can. That's not our purpose.
That to me is the big misconception about this life. Right. Is it's based a lot on the monetary. And I'm not one to lie as I sit here and stare at a row of guitars that I have. Right. To me, I justify it as their tools for what I do.
Right, for sure.
But some would go, "Oh, that's overkill." Well, okay, so thing. You have your opinion, but it's part of my purpose, and I think that it's something like, especially with you with the animals, it's something whether you recognized it at a young age as a quote unquote quote purpose. Right. You knew that it was something very important within you. Yes. And just like me with art, as young as I could remember, I could pick up and draw and either emulate what I saw, like, try to recreate it in some way, or come up with something unique and original, or combine the two. And so I knew that was very important within me, just based on the responses and the things of people. And I'm sure you got that too. Mm-hmm. But I, again, at some point in my life, decided to change what I thought my purpose was, and kind of derail my train for a little while. Yes. Which just goes to say that if you do that in your life, you don't gotta. There's always tomorrow. Yes. As long as you wake up breathing. there's always tomorrow that you don't need to wallow over yesterday because
Right.
there's nothing that's already done.
Right.
But in the future, you have no idea about. But that day that you wake up, you can change that purpose and get right
yes.
back on track to what you might know or not know.
Right.
And part of our search in this life is to maybe find that purpose.
I believe that. That definitely. I feel like I have always known that I was put here for animals for some reason.
Right.
So I don't know, say that I knew that that was somewhat of my purpose.
Right.
But I never would have thought that the rest of this would have been to the helping with the grief. And that if you look at it, I had to experience that grief in order to really be able to help people with grief. So there's a whole lot of other purpose in that story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it could be so many different things for so many different people. It's just, are you aware of there's more to this than getting up every day and going to work and paying your bills and worrying about this and worrying about that?
Yes.
that there's so much more to it.
Right. And there's also, like, for me, for everybody, really, we have other purposes, like little things, like, and those are our own personal things, our own personal purposes. Like, for me, I feel I want to travel. I want to see as much of the world as I can. I know that we'll see it when we get there, but I want to see it while I'm here.
Yeah.
And I've also my entire life said I wanted to write a book. So I feel like those are two purposes, if that makes sense, for my life. And that if I get to my deathbed and I haven't accomplished those things, I'm going to be sad.
Right.
And I think that tells you, too, I hate that some people have to wait until they are on their deathbed to realize what their purpose is. But that's almost a way to, like, flash forward and say, okay, picture yourself the day that you die and you're laying there and you're like, what didn't I do that I should have done? Think about those things and do them now. Don't wait.
No.
I mean, obviously, none of us have a ton of money that we can just go and travel all over the
Right.
world wherever we want, whenever we want. But at least fit it in. At least do those things.
Right.
We talk about this all the time, that I'm not good at sitting around because I feel that life is about new experiences.
Yeah.
So, like, when we went to that Magic Bus experience, I really enjoyed just sitting there and just taking in something that we hadn't done before. And I think that's a big part of life's purpose, too, is just to enjoy the things around us and take in as much as we can.
It definitely is about, I mean, it's not all just learning, but within that experience encompasses the learning.
Right.
Whether it's, tantalizing your senses for an hour or a couple hours, to reading a book and taking your mind on a journey, to listening to some music to try to, take yourself to a place somewhere besides this plane.
Right.
Music is a big part of that for me.
Oh, me
Even
too.
listening, besides playing, is just a whole nother thing. I just kind of I drop into a trance. And
Me too.
But listening is different. I can kind of let go of the wheel a little bit and just take a journey. But you said something cool about, the things and experiencing. Part of your purpose is getting out there and experience and seeing. And you had brought up a point earlier when we were talking about this, that everything on this earth, prior to man, that's not man-made, all served a purpose.
It does.
All serves a purpose.
It does.
Or served a purpose.
Right.
And man came along and started creating things that don't necessarily, serve a purpose. I mean,
A purpose for the planet to survive is
Right.
kind of what we're saying, not a purpose
yes.
for humans to
Humanity.
survive, although those things are still not necessary for humans to survive. But basically, the way that I got on this thought process was I was trying to think about how everything works. If this didn't exist, this wouldn't exist. There's a chain reaction for everything. So I had asked this question on our Facebook page, and my friend Hannah had commented on it, and we were just kind of chatting, and she said, well, even mosquitoes have a purpose. And so, of course, I had to look that up. And mosquitoes do have a purpose.
Well, I'm sure they do.
Well, they lay their larvae, and then the birds and the fish all feed off of that.
Right.
So if that larva wasn't there, what would those things eat? It would kind of create a cycle of things.
It's a cycle of life.
Right. So exactly. So when we talk about things that aren't here for a reason, it's those things like our cell phones and,
Right. Do we need another strip mall on the corner with
Right.
a sandwich shop and a nail salon and a
We were given all of the tools that we need to survive
Right.
without any of this man-made stuff. And
Yeah.
we experienced that when we went on that hike that one day. We went into this, I can't remember what kind of Indian, Native American place that was.
in Newbury
Yeah,
Park?
it started with an S.
Sitwawi or something?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But it was the first time that I had really let it hit me about how those types of groups survived because they had bowls and they had that the fish net thing,
Mhm.
and it just showed how they used the things that God has given us on this earth to provide.
Right.
There was nothing, you know. That's all we need.
Yep. I remember going one time to a friend of mine's wedding. A guy that used to sing in one of my early bands, Contradiction, Scott Semple. He got married in Arizona in Tempe, but one day we had an extra day while we were there, so we went to, I don't even know where it was. Anyways, a couple hours from there, and it was Montezuma's Castle, and it's one of the oldest Indian cave dwellings built into a cliff.
Oh, beautiful.
Where they used to climb up, the ladders, the bamboo ladders or whatever, driftwood ladders they made. And they said had a little shop or a little cultural center there, too, with some artifacts. And there was a, this dates back to thousands of years ago, and there was a sandal made of hemp. I'm going to go ahead and plug that. Made of hemp. And the only thing that was wrong with it, it would look like that somebody had caught it on a rock or something and broke the part that goes between your toes.
Right.
That connects. But other than that, this thing was still perfectly intact. Like you could have put it on and wore it if it was fixed.
Right.
Just amazing.
And we were given those tools to use as tools for ourselves.
And I tend to look at that a lot, at this world, kind of in a Native American kind of sense, which I'm a tiny little bit incy-bincy. One drop of my blood is Cherokee Indian, but I always tended to look at that the way they looked at it. I don't know if there's a god for the rain and a god for the wind.
Right.
I don't really know all that, but I do believe that they were intuitive and connected to the earth and knew that the earth was as much alive as we were individually.
Right.
And if we would just help her, she'll provide for us what we need for us.
Exactly.
But I think as a society, that's gotten lost a long time ago.
It definitely has.
So,
and I could probably preach on about that for days.
and I think the earth itself has a purpose, and that was to house kind of a paradise for us to live in, and we kind of took it in a wrong direction.
Yeah, we did.
But that's, I can't speak for the earth, but
Right.
I can speak for myself and know that, there might be some people listening here right now thinking, well, what if I don't know my purpose?
Right.
I can't figure it out. Well,
Right.
I think if you really listen quietly to yourself, there's something that interests you, sparks you, makes you feel good,
That you're passionate
that you're
about.
passionate about. I don't care if it's charity, art, music, animals, being a woodworker,
whatever
it is, there's something that is good to give back to humanity,
Right.
because it's not really, always about the dollar.
Right. No. And people ignore their purpose because they're afraid of what other people are going to say,
Right.
or they're not encouraged to follow their purpose. Like for me, this is what I'm here for.
Right.
So if you wouldn't have encouraged me, if you would have been like, oh, I don't think so, no wife of mine is going to be a psychic, what happens?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So you have to follow your dreams no matter what somebody else says. You have to do what you need to do for you. And that's a big lesson I've learned this year, because coming out as a medium was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Everybody looks at me differently now.
Right.
It's changed my life entirely, but that's what it was supposed to do.
Right.
It was.
And you know what? Like, exactly, that was part of your purpose.
Right.
And, for me, it's not to sit here and say as an artist or a musician that I don't want to sell my music and sell my art and make money off it. No, I'm still human like everybody else. I still
Right.
need to eat and have a roof over my head and a child
Yeah.
to take care of and stuff like that. But that's not where the drive and the desire and the passion and the lies. It's all about what kind of emotion
Right.
can you evoke from doing this thing that you're passionate about. How can it make somebody else feel good?
Right.
If we could get away and focus, you brought something up earlier that was a message that you got, and that was, I think as a species, if we started to look at life as more looking for the good and the bad,
Yes.
and not the bad and the good, we could consciously change
Oh, yes.
as a planet, and really start to help one another
Right.
more, maybe live more as like communities instead of thinking so globally. Everything's got to reach globally. But, I'm not saying we need to go back to prehistoric.
No, definitely. Nobody would live without their
Yeah.
cell phones.
No, it's
You
never going to
kidding?
happen. But there is a way. There is a way to,
Yeah.
grow for your own community, supply power, whatever, the water. I read an article about that a long time ago in Rolling Stone, which is a whole other topic. But anyways, I just don't feel like to anybody that's listening, if you don't know what your purpose is, just sit quietly with yourself, think about the things that you enjoy, what makes you happy.
Well, and I want to tell a little story here, because sometimes it takes somebody to figure out their purpose to open up somebody else's mind. Because like Nisha, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I have this friend Nisha, and we did, I think we talked about her in the last episode. Nisha, I know you live in Australia,
I
but
know.
you're going to have to find a way to come out here, because,
Yeah, she's
and I
cool.
better say hello, Chelsea, because Chelsea's going to be like, excuse me.
Hi, Chelsea. You too.
These are my girls. I love
But
my
you
girls.
guys are like moms,
Oh,
knee
shout
deep in
out to
diapers and
everybody.
stuff. So good luck. But
Yeah.
anyways, the invitation's
Anyways,
there.
So Nisha is somebody that I met doing readings, and her mother came through and basically said that she has this gift too. Said, why isn't Nisha asking me these questions herself? So Nisha was like, what? Like, I can't ask these questions. I'm like, well, apparently you can. Apparently you have this ability as well. And then a couple of months later, Nisha messaged me and said that she had learned to become a medium herself and had her own Facebook group. And it was just amazing. Like, I love her. She looks at me as somebody that helped her, but for some reason I look at her as help for me too.
Yeah.
We just have that like soul connection. But if I wouldn't have done that reading for her,
Right.
maybe she wouldn't have learned that when she did. Maybe it would have been 10 years from now. Maybe it would have been 20 years from now.
Right.
Maybe she never would have realized it. So
Yeah, and besides you, she's the second person that I'd ever had do a reading for me.
Right.
She said pretty much the same things, and
yes.
that's not talking to you because you had just got to know her. She didn't know anything about me. She knew you were
Right.
married, but
Right.
she didn't know anything about me,
Nothing, no.
what I was doing.
She's
or-
amazing. Yeah. So that is a good story of how you finding your purpose can help other people to open their purpose. There really is a chain event for everything.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is connected. Everything sets off, what's going to happen next. So, and that's something that I've really started noticing in my life a lot, and it's helped me to calm down in a lot of ways because, like, for example, you have some place that you want to go and you're behind slow driver, right? And you're like, come on, move, and you're getting all frustrated and stuff. But that guy could be put there by the universe to stop something bad from happening to you. It happens all the time.
That's true.
So instead of getting impatient with that driver in front of you, I've just learned to be like, whatever, this is the way it's supposed to be. Because sometimes I will hear things that help me. Like, we went on a hike one day, and I went to the bathroom first. I don't know if you remember this. I grabbed a paper towel to dry my hands, and I threw it away, but I heard you should take that with you. And I was like, why would I need to take that with me? Like, this is how messages come in too, by the way. They can be very frustrating. Why would I need to take that?
Because you never know when you're going to need to squat in the woods.
Right? I was like, well, okay. Like, this isn't a botanical garden. So anyways, I was like,
okay. They need water. It's sterile.
I was like, why could I possibly need to take this paper towel with me? So I threw it away. And then what happens?
Right.
The only bench that we find at the top of this hill is covered in bird crap.
Yep.
If I would have taken that paper towel with me, we could have sat on that bench.
Yeah.
So this is how things work, and that's intuition too. So anyways, I think I'm getting off topic, but there's a purpose for everything. There really is. For everything that happens to us is a purpose to help you with your purpose.
Right. And that's not to go saying that, you know, there's no accountability for anything.
Well, of course.
If you sit there and go, everything happens for a reason and there's a purpose, you're an individual purpose for you in this life, that everything happens for a reason or a purpose. And some people might, you know, think, well, some terrible things happen in this world. Why does that happen? We're going to get into that next week, and that
free
we'll
will.
cover, when we talk about free will. So, but there's still a purpose. There's a purpose of sometimes even maybe why I've got off track of my own purpose in life and rediscovered, and why it's been introduced to you 3 times in your life, and not that you ignored, but
I did.
I
did.
You were still doing things, you know what I mean?
But I didn't listen. I thought I knew better.
You didn't.
Let me tell you something that I have learned, and there's a book written about this. Never argue with a dead person. Like, now I know that when I have one of those intuitive feelings that I have to listen to it, because if I would have listened to it all those years ago, then, you know, maybe I would have started sooner. But again, there's a reason why everything happens.
Right.
It comes back to our purpose. So.
Well, I totally agree with you. And I think that everything that's on this planet, everything that encompasses this globe, has a purpose.
Yes. Why would we be the only things to not have a purpose? Mosquitoes have a purpose, but humans don't.
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
Right. And yet we highly hold ourselves much higher than a mosquito. So, yeah, I mean, and I think for me, part of my purpose is to learn as much as I can here in this life, because I'm going to help this world when I go to the other side.
Right.
So part of my purpose is to enlighten myself as much as I can as an individual.
Right.
And I can't be exactly like every human species, but as much as this soul can, to enlighten myself, maybe to almost prepare myself for that work ahead.
Right.
That I'll be even that much further along and ready to be like, all right, coach, put me in. I'm ready. Not that I say I'm not going to have to learn some things, because we all have to learn things. I'm still learning things every day.
Every day.
And I have not mastered how to be the best person in the world.
No,
you know, I just know that I take from all the people I've met in this life, and the ones that really mean a lot, you kind of go, man, I really respect that about them. And you kind of put that up as like a goal,
right,
or a pinnacle to reach, is like, I want to be like that. Not that I don't want to be like me, but I like certain things about certain people.
Right.
And so part of that is just evolving and going, it's okay to change, because change is inevitable.
Right.
And change is good, because things just get boring after a while too.
They do. I absolutely agree with you on that. So since this has kind of changed our lives, since it's come in, because we see things like in a bigger picture now. We see things as like, this sets off this and this sets off that. And you realize that the picture is so much bigger than just us. It's, if people knew really what this world was about and what their purpose was, I think people would be more relaxed, and I think that we would be able to get along better.
Right.
And I feel like if people encouraged each other more, that would really help, because people don't encourage others enough to pursue their dreams and to follow their purpose. Do you know what I mean? It's like everybody wants to find the negative in everything, but if we look at the process that we're going through. If like people tend to look at things as, why is this happening to me instead of what is this teaching me? And I am very, very, very guilty for that. But in my life, especially looking back now, I can see that the things that I needed to learn in my life, they have come back to me if I haven't learned them. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you have to learn certain things in your life to fulfill your purpose and to get where you need to go. And until you learn those lessons, they're continuously thrown at you.
It's something that we had talked about earlier, too, that I think in this world, because obviously money is something that's a part of our civilization, and sometimes it's like a bummer. I think that a barter system might be better, but then again, that's a whole nother element and topic. But
Right.
I think that if every profession in this world was all paid the same amount of money, teachers weren't down here and athletes and actors were up here. It was an even balance, and doctors and lawyers, everybody made the same amount. I think there would be a much higher value and interest in each other's profession.
Yes.
And just given more credit to.
Right.
I think also that, with that said, is like some of these things that, I think an artist and a musician, and even what you do,
Right.
a medium, is no less valuable than a stock market broker.
You know what? You read my mind, because I've been a pet sitter for most of my adult life. I started pet sitting in 2000. So, yeah, almost 20 years. And it's funny to see how people react to that, because some people look at it as a job of a teenager. For me, it's a very serious job. I work 7 days a week. I take care of these animals like they're my own. It's a very stressful job. It's a very stressful career.
It's not easy. I see you with it.
Right. But for some reason, the people that look at life as being a game of how much money you make or how successful you are or what actually equals success, those people have looked down on me for what I've done, where I'm very proud of the things that I've accomplished in my life. And now, as this job, there's a whole other ball game involved in that.
Yeah.
Like, that's life-changing, the way people look at you.
Right.
It really is.
Yeah,
And
go ahead, I'm sorry.
that right there, like, I really feel, I didn't even realize this, honestly, till recently, that another one of my purposes is kind of like to be a motivational speaker a little bit about how much this way of life has changed me and how much I've come to realize that it doesn't matter what other people think.
Right.
This is my purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let somebody that I don't even know tell me that I can't do this because they don't believe in it.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like something I shared with you too earlier, was that, as love my parents, both of them. And, but I think, when I was real young, and as every parent sees their kid grow up and they see what they're interested in, and they're like, ooh, look at Sally.
Right.
And Bobby, she's really good at this, and Bobby's really great at that. And then you get to like this teenage or some point around there, late teens before you hit 20s, and they're looking at you like, all right, when are you going to grow up?
Exactly. When are you going to figure out what you want to do with your life? Here. You know what I found interesting on this subject?
Hold on real fast.
Sure.
Is that my point about that is that I felt like at some point it no longer was okay for me to strive to want to be an artist and a musician.
Right.
And I realized, understanding now, looking back as an adult, what they were doing. Then I was a little, maybe defensive about that.
Right.
And had put that angst into my music, but I see what they were doing. They were trying to instill some sort of ethic in what I'm doing. And it's worked, even what I'm doing now.
Right.
I'm kind of the motivation, the drive in a lot of what I'm involved in. So, but with that said, I mean, I felt like I couldn't embrace it anymore, and I had to kind of, I guess it's time to go get a job and punch a clock
to be an adult
and do that. And now
can't
here
do
I
your
am,
dreams and
full circle, realizing that was the purpose all along, and something that really, my dad and I in a conversation had. He said to me one day, he said, "Yeah, I thought the whole music thing was just a phase with you, and now I realize it's not."
Yeah.
And because I said it's not a recreational activity, it's a way of life. I have to do it. Just like the art, I have to do it. It's therapy. it's necessary. It's inside of me, and it has to come out.
Absolutely.
And if I hold it inside, I don't do well.
Right.
So that was interesting to hear him. I love my dad, and I really respect his opinions about, you know, based on experience in life. Do I agree? Do we see eye to eye with everything? No. But it was one of those moments where I felt like he finally saw me, my soul,
right,
for who I was,
right,
and that I couldn't, no matter how much I tried, I couldn't be any different.
right.
I mean, I can change and I can evolve, but this purpose in me really was a purpose.
Right.
It wasn't,
No, and it's a gift. It's a huge gift.
yeah, it wasn't
Both
a
of
phase.
your talents, your art, and your music are huge gifts, and I'm really glad that you're not suppressing those anymore.
Me too.
And on the flip side of things, like your parents, I feel like they wanted to really encourage you to do well in life, to not have to have those financial struggles, which is why they probably didn't want to see you go towards music, because it is a hard way of life. For me,
Oh, yeah.
my growing up was completely different because I was raised with money. So my mom, from a young age, wanted me in show business. It was acting classes and dancing classes, and that was just never really something that I felt like was my purpose. Do you know what I mean? And because my family had money, I was never encouraged to really find anything to do with my life, which I think is a part of the generational curse that I'm trying to break.
Right.
Because they didn't raise me like college is coming. You need to go to college, or you're going to need to get a job, because I just think they probably figured I was going to live at home the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But that's not me. I had to do something with my life, which I'm glad that I did, you know. But so neither one of us were encouraged to go in the direction that we were supposed to go. Not that I wasn't encouraged. I just wasn't given really anything for the future. So I wonder then how different we would have been if our parents would have encouraged us to follow our dreams. And then I wonder how different our world would be if everybody encouraged their kids to follow their dreams. Now, we're not saying quit your job or you know, don't encourage your kids to do good in school, because our kid is amazing in school. She's absolutely amazing.
And I've instilled in her, with that being said about her grades, we've instilled in her the same kind of thing my parents did. I said, you know what, if you want maybe a little bit easier of life and not have to struggle as much, go to college. Do yourself a favor. At least have that, you know, that notch under your belt. Is it going to guarantee you this success in the world? No, not necessarily. But it give you a kind of a head start. But I also told her, hey, you have some other things that you've inherited, like art. She's a pretty good artist too. She doesn't dabble with music as much, but I've seen her and she picks it up quick.
And she picks up dancing quick.
And dancing.
She's very,
so I
very
said, you're
smart.
just very a well-rounded human as far as your smarts and your talents. So part of me, you know, you're a product of your environment. So a little bit of my family and how I was raised sneaks into how I raise her. But then I'm going, I want to push more of the dreams.
Right.
And don't forget that you can do what you really want to in this world.
Right. And here's an example with her really is when you and I first started dating, she wanted to be a forensic scientist. She was stuck on that. And she was only like 8 years old. Right. But you know what? You want to be a forensic scientist?
Do it.
We will support whatever you do. Yeah. Then she went on to something else and something else. But whatever it is that she wants to do, we've encouraged her to do that, because whatever it is, it's her decision. It's her life, and she needs to find her purpose. So look for your purpose. We don't know what her purpose is yet either. She'll figure it out.
My parents always said, especially my dad always said, if you want to be a ditch digger and you're happy, be that, you know?
Right.
So he wasn't telling me being a musician and an artist wasn't okay. I think
just a harder way of life, probably.
Yeah, he was just like, it's kind of, you're going to be broke all the time. And he's right.
But yeah,
that's the truth.
But that's okay, because you know what? If you're happy, and this is another problem with society, is that if you're happy, but you have to struggle to get by, well, you're happy. Why do you need extra money? I mean, extra money is great. We all want to go out and spend and have a good time.
Right.
But if money doesn't buy happiness. You can have all the money in the world, and if you don't have a family, you know, I always say I would as long as we have our family, that's all that matters. I don't need anything. I mean, we need a roof over our heads, obviously, and the basics, but all those other things, they don't matter. But
and here's kind of a velociraptor about it for you, is that it's all interconnected. And in the sense of my parents' purpose in their life was to do what they're doing or what they wanted to do, and they chose to have children, and part of that was raising me how they saw fit,
right,
and instilling in me some of these values about how to be, you know, a productive member of society and a good person on this planet. I learned some bad things too, you know, but we all do.
We all do.
We all have a
That's
story.
life.
But part of my purpose is I've come full circle, is that I'm sharing this now with my parents.
Right.
And they're seeing the possibility.
Right.
And they're now looking at it through a different pair of glasses.
Yes.
So my purpose was to maybe somehow affect their purpose.
Absolutely. You never know.
It's
Yeah,
like it's
for
all
sure.
like domino effect.
Yeah.
It's all intertwined. It's connected to the littlest degree sometimes that I think we totally take for granted. Really, how magical this world is, and these relationships, and how amazed we are by when we get to the other side and we see all these people that we've connected with that maybe they seemed insignificant,
right?
But they'll be there, and and we can carry on these conversations and these ideals, and we can work towards implementing that into some hearts and minds of other people that are living, to try to make this world at some place, which I do believe that, I don't know how, if we're talking thousands of years, but I do believe that we'll come to a place of higher consciousness again,
so.
and
The
peace,
Age of
and there won't be wars and stuff like that. It's going to be a long time, but I think it's going to happen.
One thing that I have to say is I feel like that since this process, my purpose, the way I look at it, has expanded, because I feel like I said, now almost like a motivational speaker, that if we can help people to see things differently, that for me would be huge. Even if it's just one person that takes from this podcast that life doesn't have to be so hard. Do what feels good. Yes. What you go to your grave with is not all of this stuff. Is stuff nice? Sure.
Right.
But is it important? No, it's not. Go and spend more time with your family. Find your purpose. Put your phone down. Do those things so that when you get to your deathbed, you don't say, I didn't fulfill my purpose. If I can get there and say that, but also say that I wasn't afraid to die, I think for me, I will be one happy spirit when I get there.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
No, those are good words to live by. I think that's a good
so.
message. And
I think I'm smarter than some people may think I am. Or not. I don't know.
Well, here we are, and we've killed another hour of everybody's time. We're going to wrap this one up. Do you want to share your pages again?
Yeah, let's do that.
And then we'll get into the music part.
Yes,
all right.
Let's do that. So for my Medium business, I have a Facebook page. It is Beyond the Bridge 11. For our podcast, our Facebook page is Spiritual Philoso Chatter with the Joneses. But if you put at Spiritual Philoso Chatter, that's the short version of it. So you can search it that way. And we also are on Spotify and SoundCloud and all of those. And then I have my personal website, which is SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com.
Nice. So check it out, folks. If you're into art, you can check my art out at Facebook at D Jones Art Collection, and Instagram # D Jones Art Collection. You can also follow Gypsy Brown on Facebook, and we have a website as well, gypsybrown.com. New music coming. What's up there is pretty old, but there are 3 songs up there. And pretty soon, coming up on that, hopefully quick. We're moving quick on
exciting.
it, so we're excited.
Gypsy Brown is my favorite.
We're looking forward to getting out there and playing live again, and just getting these things down, so we actually have them recorded. So, but this week we're going to feature another band that I was in, and I was sharing with you earlier that so far every piece of music that I've played, Rob Brown has been, and it's funny, his last name's Brown, has been the drummer on every. Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Except we spelled Gypsy Brown with an E. His
Right.
is just regular spelling, but
Yeah.
but he's played on everything that we've played so far. The intro, he recorded that with Adam, and then the song I'm going to play today.
I just heard Rob say, it's because I'm going to be famous from the other side.
You will, buddy.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Rob's such a good guy. Yeah.
He is, and what a great player. So I'm so excited for you to hear something else. This goes back to like 1992 or 93. The band was Contradiction. Scott Semple was lead singer. John Shaw was the bass player. Rob Brown was a drummer, and myself on the guitar. So this song is off our first release, self-titled Contradiction, and the song is called Deeper. So enjoy, everybody. Have a great week.
Yep, and we'll see you next week. We will be talking about free will.
Free Will is episode number 4.
Yes.
So tune in, check it out. Tell your friends, family, whoever you think might
Spread
be
the
interested.
word.
Spread the word, pay it forward. But until next week, peace and love.
When I needed it the most. sides of the day.